Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Hump Day.
Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Today is Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I like to say, the fun is all in the trying. I have to apologize about yesterday, not having a show yesterday. So at one of my clients' places, the place where you normally see me at on Tuesday or Thursday, sometimes doing the show, we finally got the studio set up, and I was going to be kind of doing a remote, but in their studio. And let's just say, as we got ready to get everything going, we had some technical difficulties, shall we say, and it just didn't get the show off yesterday. So apologize about that. I know you guys would have liked to have heard kind of some election predictions. I made a few, or I had a few planned, and unfortunately didn't get a chance to make them. But we're going to talk a little bit about what those predictions were, and what the outcomes were. And I had the hindsight of saying that I was right, which I usually am. But unfortunately, you're just gonna have to take my word for the fact that I was right. But no, I take that back. If you listen to me, because I did several radio and TV spots over the last few days talking about the outcome of the election, and I said the same things that I was going to say yesterday on the show about in particular the primaries here in California, because California elections are always interesting, shall we say? Anyway. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and begin the show as we usually do with a quick shout out to our sponsors. And we're going to start with our friends over at Hitman Industries. That's right, Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels. They are available for you to purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. Now, if you've purchased an AR in the last few years, you've probably got one of their barrels already, because they do business with a lot of AR companies. So if you're looking to do a brand new build, if you're looking to rebarrel your current rifle, start your project, start your experience with Hitman Industries. And then we've got the California Republican Assembly, working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way down to President of the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. That's right, the California Republican Assembly. You need to find out why by visiting their website at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters that are available on the market. And you will find them at hawgholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. Spelled kind of funny, right? Because they like helping Americans wear guns. They like it so much, they're going to give you a discount if you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. Use that discount code, and you're going to get your Hog holster on discount today. And then finally, if you're looking for new gear, folks, the weather's changing, situation's changing. You always got to be updating your game, right? So you got to get new gear. The place to look is uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They have competitive pricing. In fact, they specialize in group sales. So you need to go there. You need to check it out. And by the way, their customer service, phenomenal, off the chain. You need to go there, check them out. uscombatgear.com, the place where you'll find all things tactical except the gun. And then finally, I want to remind you, if you're watching the show during the 3 o'clock hour on the West Coast or during the 6 o'clock hour on the East Coast, you are watching us live, and we would love to hear from you. I don't care if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. In fact, it's actually better if you disagree with me, because then, it gives me the opportunity to mock you.
Oh, wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right, we will mock you. And by the way, we do so not to be mean. We do so to be entertaining. And, I don't know if our audience is necessarily entertained when we do it, but I'm pretty entertained. So I guess that's all that really matters in the crux of things. That's the main reason why I do it, is because I enjoy having fun doing this sort of stuff. All right. let's get into the primary results. And I know those of you who are outside or on the other side of the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, California elections probably aren't such a big deal to you. But here's why it's important, because if good things are happening in California electorally, that's a good sign that things are going to happen pretty good across the country, right? Because let's be honest, the wacky of the wacky, the crazy of the crazy, the left of the left generally starts off, and the movement usually starts here in the state of California. We've got some of the craziest of the crazy. So knowing what goes on during these elections, when you consider the fact that a huge percentage of California voters are going to vote for someone with a D after their name, no matter what, it becomes interesting when Republicans in certain places, outside of certain places, actually are competitive and actually have a shot at winning. And that's exactly what we're looking at with these primary elections. Probably the two biggest races that folks were looking at were one was the governor's race here in California, where two Republicans, Steve Hilton, former Fox News commentator, and Sheriff Chad Bianco, the sheriff of Riverside County, both at one point during this election cycle had an opportunity to make it into the top two, potentially creating a top two, all Republican top two campaign or fall election here in the state of California, where California would have had to elect a Republican governor. Well, let's just say that didn't happen. All right, that did not happen. We did not get that, but we still, at the same time, did have some very exciting results. It says here, latest election results, California faces cliffhanger primary votes. Democrats avoid GOP shocker and Spencer Platt. That was, by the way, the other race. The race for the mayor of Los Angeles. That one is actually going to be continued, because that is going to be carrying over into the fall. Let's read a little bit from the folks over here at Yahoo News. It says here, the midterm primary rush continued as voters in 6 states cast their ballots in high-stakes contests that could play a major role in deciding which party wins control of Congress in November. Iowa's gubernatorial primary, GOP-backed Representative Randy Feenstra conceded the GOP nomination to Zach Lon. Both of them most closely watched. But two of the most closely watched races are in California. They were primaries for governor and LA mayor were too close to call as counting continued. Republican Steve Hilton, a television commentator, they would dare not say Fox News commentator, but a television commentator, and Democrat Javier Becerra, a former Biden cabinet secretary, took the early lead in what was a crowded field of more than 60 candidates vying to replace Governor Gavin Newsom, who has served the maximum number of terms as governor. With 58% of the votes counted, Hilton was ahead with 27.8% of the vote, and Becerra had 25.4%. According to Reuters, billionaire Tom Steyer, a Democrat, trailed with 19.6%. Former Representative Katie Porter, another high-profile Democrat in the race, conceded election night, saying, "We will not advance to the general election in November." Associated Press has not yet projected which two candidates will advance, and the second place spot could shift as late mail-in ballots are counted through June 9th. Let's move here along a little bit. It says, Hilton said his chances of advancing to November's general election were looking good, while Becerra said he wants to lead a state that regularly makes the improbable seem inevitable. California uses the open primary. Well, yeah, we already know that. Oh, here's the one I want to get to. The night's other high-profile race was in Los Angeles, where Mayor Karen Bass advanced to a runoff to face tough challenges from Republican former reality star Spencer Pratt and progressive Democrat Nithya Raman. But no candidate seemed set for outright majority. Bass, a Democrat, had around 34.8% of the vote, with about 63% of the expected votes counted, according to the Associated Press. Pratt was running second with 30.4, and Rahman was third with 22.3. Now, the interesting thing about this is they're acting like these races are too close to call right now, but the reality is, once you get over 30% of the vote, now you're getting into counting the mail-in ballots. You're significantly into the mail-in ballots. You generally, unless you start to see a significant trend in the change in numbers, that means the numbers are what they are, which basically is going to tell you that in this particular case, our runoffs now for the fall are set. It's going to be Steve Hilton versus Javier Becerra, which, by the way, I was listening this morning on the radio, and the number of people who just don't know how to pronounce Javier Becerra's name just goes to show you how irrelevant dude really is. I mean, it was astonishing, the number of TV personalities and news reporters that I'm like, yeah, dude, his name is Javier Becerra, not Xavier Becerra or Xavier Baccara, right? No, it's Javier Becerra, right? By the way, and you don't have to use the Latin rolling of the R, but yeah. So this is going to make for an interesting race. Now, Javier Becerra, not only was he the HHS secretary for Joe Biden, who even people in the Joe Biden administration said he wasn't very impressive and didn't really do a whole lot, which is a lot coming from them. I mean, the fact that they say he didn't do anything tells you how bad this dude actually was. But he also was the attorney general for the state of California. I said from the very beginning, when candidates started announcing, I said that Javier Becerra was likely going to be the Democrat lead candidate. And I said that because he's been in Congress. He's served in a presidential cabinet, in a White House cabinet, in a significant position. And he's been elected statewide to what? Probably the third highest office. I mean, I hate to put a lieutenant governor above it, but I mean, really, attorney general is a pretty significant office. A lot of folks have used attorney general for the state of California as a stepping stone to governor. Now, this is a guy who, once again, on the campaign trail has been less than impressive. While he's been in office, he was less than impressive. But he seems to be the guy who, he seems to be the guy that Democrats are least embarrassed to have their name, is what I think it really comes down to. They didn't want Tom Steyer, who is a billionaire. There's something about having a billionaire be the one to carry their mantle. They just could not bring themselves to do it. Despite the fact that he spent somewhere around $220 million. I think he spent somewhere around $200 per vote. $200 per vote. I think he would have been better off if he just handed out, two $200 bills to people and said, "Hey, vote for me." Probably would have got him more votes. Anyway, so Katie Porter, well, I guess if you want to have big old pot of mashed potatoes poured over your head, because she did that to her husband, so she'll have no qualms about doing it to you, the voter. So unless that's what you want, I mean, there really wasn't much of a choice for folks, right? It really just kind of came down to Javier Becerra. Anyway, so that's what's going to be going on. And then you've got Steve Hilton, who is a Fox News commentator. Now, by the way, the two Republicans, one was Steve Hilton, the Fox News commentator. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a second. The other was Sheriff Chad Bianco, who is a sheriff of Riverside County. I think they were saying the fourth largest sheriff's department in the country. He basically works with dozens of cities in which he is the effective police chief because he contracts with them within Riverside County and acts as their law enforcement department. Very good guy. I mean, I think would have been an excellent governor. I mean, he's right on all the issues. My biggest problem with him was he never really addressed how he's going to do what he's going to do, considering the fact that Democrats are control both houses of the legislature, that every other statewide elected is likely to be a Democrat. Most of the big cities he's going to have to deal with are run by, not most, all of the big cities that he's going to have to deal with are currently run by Democrats, as well as having a Democrat judiciary. But he was right on the issues. I think if he had the right staff around him to help him come up with some of the actual solutions in terms of how he was going to do it, I think he would have done a good job. But then you've got Steve Hilton. Now, Steve Hilton, the Fox News commentator, born in Hungary, raised in Great Britain, came to the United States, became a citizen 5 years ago, became a resident of California 5 years ago and has spent probably easily the last 3 years planning this run. When I say planning this run, I mean he met with conservative leaders, he met with opinion leaders, he met with issue area experts, and he really worked to understand the issues impacting the state of California and what the things that were in the way of making those things happen. And so as he developed plans for what he wanted to do, a lot of the plans and the things that he wants to do take into account the challenges that he's going to face, the uphill battle, the onslaught of left-wing electeds and media that he's going to have to deal with. And he really kind of addressed that in a lot of the things that he's talked about. So I think if anyone has a plan, right, to do, I mean, is he going to be able to make the sweeping changes that California really needs? I hope. But what I do know is that there are some real tangible things that he's pointed out that I know he can do that are well within reach that would make things significantly better here in the state of California. So the key now is going to be him getting elected. The key is going to be him getting beyond where he currently is. Now, the challenge is going to be the electorate in California. And I've always said this, there's about somewhere around 50% of the vote in California that are going to vote for a person with a D after their name no matter what. And I know that's kind of a sad number. I know no one really wants to hear that, but that is the truth. Now, the difference though, and this is the thing I think he really brings to the table that really helps, is that if you look at the numbers, you look at Javier Becerra and you look at Steyer, those are the top two. So it was Javier Becerra. Let me see if I can pull up the actual election results. So California primary election results. I'm trying to find a graphic for you. Governors. I probably should have done this already. Anyway, the point is that you have him at the very top at about 28%. And then you had Javier Becerra, which is somewhere around 24, 25%. Then you had lower at right around 19. You had Steyer, and then down around 11 you had down around 11 you had 11 or 12 you had Chad Bianco. If you look at it right now, just if you got every single vote, every single voter that voted for Bianco to vote for Hilton, you're now in around the mid 40s. So you really only need about 5 or 6 more percent in order to be able to win. Now, you've got a lot of other folks you've got a significant number of folks that did not vote for Becerra, that may be open to the idea of voting for Hilton. Now, it depends on how Hilton campaigns. It depends on what Hilton talks about. It depends on how he exposes Becerra. Once again, he doesn't need huge numbers from everybody. He just needs a little bit from everybody. He just needs a little bit from everybody. And I think if he runs a good campaign, and not a good, he's got to run a great general election campaign. He's got to not only got to bring together his base, but he's got to reach across the aisle. Dude needs to reach out to the media, right? He's part of the media. He knows people in the media. He's got to be willing to go to and be a part of and be seen and heard on every local TV station, every local radio station. He's got to be in all of the newspapers, both the locals, the statewide, as well as the ethnic publications. He's got to be everywhere. He's got to show that he hears people, what people have been saying. Just regurgitate some of the things he's been hearing people saying as he's done these meetings over the last few years. Identify what the problems are. Don't necessarily tie it to and say, oh, well, the Democrats did this, the Democrats did that. Say, the guy before me, the people before me did this, but we can do this to fix it. Now, the guy I'm running against, he's going to do exactly what the last guy did. He's going to do exactly what he did. I'm going to do something different and be willing to go and take the slings and the arrows. And if he's willing to do that, he'll eke out another 5-6%, which could get him over the top. Anyway, so we got a real shot. Now, In the other election there in Los Angeles, the interesting thing was, so you had Mayor Bass, who was somewhere around 38%, and then you had, well, let me go back and look at that one again. What did they say that Mayor Bass was at? Mayor Bass. So Mayor Bass was at 34%. Pratt was at 30%. And then the third party candidate, who was basically a Marxist, she was at 22.3%. Now, the people who were voting for the Marxist, some of them are people who are like, look, I don't like Bass. I want an alternative, but I'm not going to vote for a reality star. I'm not going to vote for a Republican. Some of them are those folks. Some of them are people who are just pissed off, and there's no way they're going to vote for Karen Bass. I will not pretend to tell you I know what those percentages are. I do know that that Spencer Pratt has demonstrated a unique ability, in particular through video, to be able to reach out to those folks and help fan the flame of being pissed off, right, with those folks. Now, what I think he needs to do is he needs to focus his ire on Karen Bass, right? In a lot of the videos that he's done in the past, he's thrown in Kamala Harris, he's thrown in Gavin Newsom, and yeah, they're bad and they're part of the problem, but he needs to dig in to Karen Bass. And as he digs into Karen Bass, he's got to focus on more specifics of things she has done wrong. And at the same time, he's got to offer a positive vision. His vision that he's offered so far has been, I'm not going to be them. I'm not going to be her. And that's not going to be enough. In the end, he's going to have to say, look, these are some of the real policy solutions. Now, what he will have now is he'll have some resources because people are going to help him out. People are going to donate. You need to bring some some policy experts in and say, look, these are some simple talking points, some simple plans, simple things that you can do. And when I say keep it simple, you got to keep it simple, right? Don't get big, don't get elaborate, because dude is not, I mean, I'm sorry, but he doesn't come across to me as a rocket scientist. So as soon as you start talking, scientific formulas, everyone's going to know it's not him. Keep it basic, keep it simple, but know that there's a policy behind it. Know that there's a plan behind it, right? Get some of those people who are up and develop those plans to stand next to you and say, hey, yes, we've talked, and these are the sorts of things that he can do, and these are realistic plans. These are realistic ideas. You do that, Spencer Pratt, and then you get out there. Be seen. Be seen. Go places where other Republicans won't go, right? Go places where if your consultant is telling you don't go there, you go there. Go there because there are people there that need to hear from you. The left, and a lot of Republicans do this. The consultant class tells them don't go someplace. Don't go there. Don't be there. You won't be well received there. And so they don't go. And the only people there are the Democrats. And the Democrats lie on them. Well, it's a lot harder to lie on somebody when they're standing right there to be able to rebut what it is that you had to say. But when you don't show up, then people, number one, assume you don't care. They assume you're not real. And when they assume you don't care and they assume you're not real, but the other person at least did show up, well, then why shouldn't they believe that person? Why not? I mean, they're here. You're not. So anyway, got to show up. Got to show up. And that's, by the way, that advice also goes to Steve Hilton. Go to places where other folks won't other Republicans wouldn't go. Trust me. Hey, hit me up. Look, I'll show you the places you need to go. I'll hook you up with the media connects you need to get hooked up with to be the places you need to be. And let people hear what you have to say. Because trust me, people are just pissed off enough. They're pissed off enough that, they're not in love with the Democratic Party the way they used to be. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on that one, but once again, I'm a little excited because it was a good election day. It does not necessarily mean that California is going to have a big red wave. It does not necessarily mean that we're going to have this same sort of success in the fall election, which means that we need to get to work. We need to work hard in order to make it happen. But I believe for the first time in a while, we got a shot, and that's a good thing. All right, folks, that now brings us to our next story here, and this has to do with the Anti-Weaponization Fund. And you probably have heard this story already, but I will share it with you nonetheless. It is looking like the weaponization. This is basically the $1.776 billion that was being set aside for people who had been the victims of lawfare by the federal government. Yeah, unfortunately, that money that was originally going to be set aside, it's not going to happen. Acting AG Blanche reveals fate of Trump's anti-weaponization fund under pressure from House lawmakers. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced that the Justice Department is abandoning its efforts to create an anti-weaponization fund during the House Appropriations Committee hearing Tuesday. The fund, which stemmed from a lawsuit between President Donald Trump and the Internal Revenue Service, was put on hold after a federal judge issued a temporary injunction blocking its creation. A hearing on the anti-weaponization fund legal basis had been scheduled for June 12th, but it will no longer take place, Blanche testified. Quote, "We are not moving forward with the fund, period," Blanche said. "The reasons for the fund are something the president has talked about for a long time, which is the fact that there are a lot of people in this country who had their government weaponized against them. The reasons for the fund, I think, remain as important as they were before, but we are not moving forward with the fund." And I will just say this, he is right. While I think the fund in particular was fraught with issues, I think making it for $1.776 billion, I think that was a scam or a bump too far, right? That was I think a thing. That was a bridge too far. You knew this was a publicity stunt. I think he knew it was a publicity stunt, and it turned into exactly what it was, a publicity stunt. And he got out of it what he wanted, to a degree. You had a lot of folks claim that he was going to be making money off of it, but we all know he wasn't. And I really think a big part of it was a distraction. But he's not wrong in the fact that the Biden administration, and before him, the Obama administration, weaponized our federal law enforcement, our judicial system against the people of these United States, against their political enemies, against people who disagreed with them politically. You literally had people who they had SWAT teams, armed SWAT teams, pro-life activists had armed SWAT teams come to their house and drag people out of their homes, arrest them in front of their children, and put them in federal jail for praying outside of abortion clinics. That's the sort of stuff that they were doing. You had people who were ushered into the state, into the Capitol building, the federal Capitol, the U.S. Capitol building, by guards. They broke no property. They didn't damage any property. They didn't attack anybody. They didn't do any harm to anybody. Who were also hunted down and arrested. Some of which actually had to do time. And, a lot of people lost jobs. People lost income. People had to hire attorneys to be able to defend themselves. And they were not made whole. At a certain point, these folks need to be made whole. And, I just thought it was so bad that, once again, these are people who are, many of which were patriots, and they were basically had their government turned against them, right? Their government was federal law enforcement was sent to go after them. They were sent or encouraged to prosecute them. And anyway, I thought the idea was good. I thought the execution of that idea, as have been a number of things that have come out of this White House, sadly, by the Department of Justice, sadly was poorly executed. And we got this. Now, this was poorly executed because I think this is what the president wanted. I don't think this is what Blanche wanted, but this is what the president wanted. And so this one was actually more poorly executed by the White House itself than the Department of Justice. But in the end, like I said, I think he got what he wanted, which was he got the PR out of it. So it's a PR win for him, at least for his base. His base will be like, yeah, he tried to give us money. He tried to take care of us, but it just didn't work out. All right, moving right along. Anti-gun actress pledged to step away from violent films. Now, mind you, the only reason this is a big issue is because she's made probably most of her money, or a lot of her money, off of these anti-gun films. You may know her from probably the most famous. I don't want to say the most famous, but she was in Tomb Raider, right? She played Laura Croft in Tomb Raider, who had guns. She was in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. A lot of guns in that one. She's in a number of films. They'll talk about it. But anyway, she now has pledged that she will. She's basically pledged that she will step away from violent films after a career filled with them. This is from Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms. Actors have always had this idea that their own political beliefs somehow mattered to their audiences. Luckily, before social media, it was pretty easy to ignore them and just enjoy the work, unless they sucked at it. But these days, it's prime time for actors and actresses who support gun control to decide to lecture Americans about how we're wrong for valuing our right to keep and bear arms. And it's especially rich to hear from people talk how you and I shouldn't have guns from people who make a lot of money handling a firearm on film. Those whose industry keeps getting excluded from numerous gun control laws and who keep churning out movies that are filled with violence. In other words, guns are bad, but not when there's money to be made, particularly by them. One of the worst has been Julianne Moore, a talented actress. Moore has been a complete moron for pushing gun control, even as she's had a firearm in her hand in a fair number of films. Now, though, she's promising those days are over. Oh, Julianne Moore. Why did I think this was? I'm sorry. Why did I? Oh my God! I cannot believe I did that. I thought that was someone else. Anyway, it says, speaking from European elite artsy mecca of film, in a country with no constitutional gun rights and strict laws, all but suffocating civilian ownership, one of Hollywood's recognizable actresses declared she has had enough. After decades of participating in films, many of which included guns, shooting scenes of violence, and she herself handling and using a firearm, actress Julianne Moore pontificated she no longer wished to act in violent films. Okay, so it was Julianne Moore. Why did I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, so she was in Hannibal. She was in The Kingsman, which by The Golden Circle. She was in Suburbicon, all of which had guns. Why did I think? You know what? I don't want to give into the trope. You know, they all look alike, but I thought that was Angelina Jolie. I'm glad it's not. I'm glad it's not Angelina Jolie, but for some reason I had it in my head that it was Angelina Jolie. What do you know? I goofed. Anyway, but Julianne Moore, same exact thing. She has decided that she is not going to participate. Well, you know what? Don't. And when people stop watching your films or the films that you're in because, they don't like your political stance, here's what you could have done. You could have just not done the movies anymore. How simple would that have been? You could have just not done the movies anymore because that's not how you want to be portrayed. That's not what you want to portray. You could have just done that and you didn't have to go make a statement about it. Right? You didn't. You could live your values without necessarily having to make a public statement. Because now people are going to be like, yeah. First of all, they're going to call you a hypocrite because you've made so much money off of films where you actually did use a firearm, where you did possess a firearm. So that's number one. And then number two, well, now you've taken a position that I hate. You now want to subvert my rights. my right to keep and bear arms. It's one thing if you don't want to exercise your right to keep and bear arms, you have every right not to. But I have every right to. And you want to now step on that. So nah, I'm good. No more. Absolutely, positively, no more. No more. I got no more to say to you. I'm not interested in watching your movies anymore. And quite frankly, that's kind of how bad, how little I knew about her, because I thought she was someone else. How bad is that? I thought she was somebody else. Oh, yeah, but that didn't keep me from running my mouth, did I? Anyway, doesn't matter. Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, moving right along. Oh, this is a good one. Now, for those of you who do not know, Harvard was originally started by the church. So Harvard was actually a Christian university when it started out. Well, let's just say not anymore, as the Harvard Divinity School is launching a journal devoted to queerness and Palestinian liberation. It says here, we are not scholars, the editors wrote in one volume, with support from the dean's office. Let's read this. Harvard University, which is being sued by the federal government for anti-Semitism, has been laying off employees and is going around telling courts, Congress, and alumni that federal funding cuts are threatening life-saving cancer research. Is launching a new publication named after the Canaanite goddess of the Bible that the Bible bans. Wow. Okay. The first issue of Asherah, a Harvard Divinity School journal, touts innovations in Jewish prayer and ritual. It is really something to behold, even by the provocative and sophomoric standard of student publications. While the journal's website describes it as, quote, a student publication of Harvard Divinity School, it also says it is created by Shal Majid, who is not a student, but rather the professor of modern Jewish studies in residence at Harvard University School and a member of the executive committee of Harvard's Center for Jewish Studies. In his 2023 book, The Necessity of Exile, Majid declares that Israel is mired in an increasingly chauvinistic ethno-national project and said he does not think that liberalism and Zionism can be seen as compatible in any easy way. The book he writes is, quote, in some sense anti-Zionist, or, quote, more precisely counter-Zionist. Majid wrote 2 of the 16 articles in the journal, including a preface that begins, quote, we first announced our new Harvard Divinity School Jewish liturgy journal, Asherah. We received many responses stretching from congratulations to curiosity to disturbance and even anger. Majid writes more than a little defensively that the name was chosen, quote, not to subvert the norms that constitute Judaism today as much as to enhance them, end quote. A reasonable response would be, spare us the enhancement. Deuteronomy 16:21 states, quote, do not plant an Asherah for yourself or any tree near the altar of Adonai, your God, that you will make for yourself, end quote. Encyclopedia Judaica describes Asherah as, quote, a Canaanite fertility and mother goddess. The Babylonian Talmud in Sanhedrin 7b describes it as a tree used for idolatry. So here you have the divinity school of a university, of an Ivy League university that was founded as a Christian university, creating a journal putting out a journal by a dude who claims to be Jewish, who claims to study, the Jewish faith, and yet he is promoting heresy and blasphemy and idol worship. I don't even know what to say. I have no idea what to say, except this is the Ivy League, and it is why I am no longer impressed by anybody who says that they graduated from an Ivy League school. I don't care which one it is. Stanford, Columbia, Harvard, Yale. As far as I'm concerned, you all have been educated into imbecility. You have been indoctrinated, not educated. And I got nothing for you. You are most definitely less than impressive your degree. Let's put it that way. That degree that once used to be considered an accomplishment is definitely less than impressive these days. Anyway, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Go to hogholster.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, and you can get your Hog Holster on discount today. All right, all of our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. Our first one here coming from they're all coming from once again, the Babylon Bee, fake news you can trust. First one here. 60 Minutes begins search for new pompous blowhard. This as their old pompous blowhard has been fired. That's right, Scott Pelley has been fired because, well, he doesn't like the direction that Barry Weiss is taking CBS News. He doesn't like them actually, reporting the news and being objective as opposed to being liberal left-wing ideologues. Here we go. Next one is also from the Babylon Bee. Pride Parade forced to change direction after route takes it within 200 yards of a school. That's insinuating that there are some sexual deviants, sexual predators, yada, yada, yada. They're probably part of that parade. Yeah, they're probably right. Oh, hey, this is a good one. On her book tour, Joe Biden assures nation Joe's old age did not hamper her ability to serve as president. Yeah, we all know who is running things. We all know who is really running things. And then companies protest Pride Month logos, obviously unaware that Donald Trump is president. I'm sorry. Companies post Pride Month logos, obviously unaware that Donald Trump is president, because he knows he's going to bring attention to him. It's going to call him out, and people are going to not want to do business with them because, well, because. Anyway, folks, that now brings us to the end of our program. Very much appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you liking and sharing the program. Oh, before we go, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors. You got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available at hitmanindustries.net. The California Republican Assembly, which is the conscience of the Republican Party. You'll find them at cragop.org. We've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, the place we can find all things tactical except the gun, uscombatgear.com. All right, now we can go ahead and say goodbye to you and all our friends. Anyway, very much appreciate y'all tuning in. We will be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun. Y'all stay safe. See you manana.